In the 2000s, getting a taxi often meant standing on a street corner, waving your hand, and hoping for the best. Traditional taxi services operated on outdated dispatch systems, leaving customers frustrated with long wait times, unregulated pricing, and inconsistent service. No fun at all. That's what entrepreneurs Garrett Camp and Travis Kalanick thought while trying to find a cab on a cold, snowy night in Paris. As they waited there freezing, a simple idea came to them. What if you could request a ride from your phone? And that's the question posed in 2008 that spawned Uber. In 2024, Uber dominated the U.S. ride-hailing market with a 76% share. Over 160 million people in 70 countries open its app to get a ride. But what was the reason for such success? It wasn't even the first taxi app. So what was so special about Uber that made it number one? The answer is simple. It hit the spot by providing an exceptional experience for both riders and drivers. How? Let's find out. In the 2000s, smartphones were the new cool thing, and internet access made them more than just calling machines. Mobile apps of all sorts started appearing, offering convenient tools for any purpose, ride-hailing included. Taxi Magic was the first to come up with such an app. However, despite its initial success, it failed to gain long-term popularity. There were several reasons for that. One was the inefficient dispatch system. Instead of giving your order to nearby taxis, the app dispatched ones that were next in the waiting queue, even if they were farther away. Imagine having to wait for 2 hours while your driver gets to you through rush hour LA traffic. Naturally, that led to frustrations and frequent cancellations. Another drawback was the complex payment system. Customers had to pay drivers and the app separately, which was confusing and inconvenient. Also, Taxi Magic only worked with commercially licensed drivers, which limited its scalability. So basically, Uber's key innovation was not just the app itself, but the way it streamlined the entire ride-hailing process. Let's see how they did it. First of all, they solved that dispatch problem by enabling GPS-based matching. It was a revolution. Uber's system uses GPS and matching algorithms to connect riders with the nearest available drivers. No more long wait times. With GPS technology, Uber also introduced real-time tracking, so you can see your driver's location on the map. No more wondering if they're lost or circling the block. They've also enabled upfront pricing. Remember the days of wondering how much a cab ride would cost? Or if you had enough cash on you? Uber wiped the doubts away. From the moment you book, you know exactly what you'll pay. No more awkward fumbling for bills or coins while the meter is running. Oh, and about that meter, it's one of those most annoying things in life, like that sock disappearing in the wash, or forgetting the remote control when you're already so comfy in front of the TV. You know that feeling, right? But the taxi meter frustration was so common that it got a name, the taxi meter effect. That's when we prefer to pay a flat rate over a metered one, even if it costs us more. Why? It's not just that we're bad at math. It's about avoiding the mental stress of watching the price tick up with every mile, call, or unit used. Of course, Uber's pricing isn't completely static. It's dynamic and fluctuates based on demand, weather, and other factors. A rainy Friday night may mean a higher rate, but at least you're in the loop from the start. Uber replaced that meter anxiety with the zen of knowing the rate up front. Also, a convenient cashless payment system allows riders to just hop out of the car at their destination. Simple and fast. Another way Uber stood out was by enabling direct communication via the app. So no more calling the dispatcher. Fewer middlemen equals greater speed. Then comes personalization, the king of user experience. Want a quiet ride? Hate air conditioning? You can set preferences right in the app and enjoy a ride that's tailor-made for you. They've also enabled ratings and reviews. Uber's two-way rating system means both riders and drivers are held accountable. It's a subtle nudge towards politeness and professionalism, because who doesn't want a 5-star rating? But their biggest edge? Incentives. During its growth phase, Uber made rides irresistibly affordable, free or discounted first rides, promo codes for loyal users, and referral rewards that turned happy customers into brand ambassadors. All this came at the expense of Uber's own profit, but the goal was clear: dominate the market first. With such a user-centric approach, Uber was destined to succeed. But pleasing riders was just one piece of the puzzle. Another one was reimagining the driving experience. In fact, Uber initially worked with professional drivers targeting the premium segment. But as it started facing competition from Lyft and Sidecar, the company pivoted and joined the ride-sharing market. What seemed a forced move to survive the rising tide turned out to be a total game-changer. So much so that today, the expansion of the sharing economy and on-demand service platforms is sometimes referred to as the Uber effect. During that rough time after the financial crisis of 2008, thousands of people were looking for jobs, and this was their chance. Uber is known as one of the pioneers of the gig economy. It invited anyone with a car and a smartphone to be an entrepreneur, providing access to a massive pool of riders so drivers didn't have to hunt for passengers. The app sent riders directly to them, optimizing time and earnings. It also offered flexibility and control over working hours. Drivers could work when they wanted, for as long as they wanted. Got a free afternoon? Open the app and start earning. Need a day off? No one's stopping you. To build and maintain its driver network, Uber invested heavily in incentives and payouts, again compromising its profits. Generous sign-up bonuses, referral programs, and surge pricing encouraged more drivers to join and stay on the platform. These strategies helped Uber rapidly expand its driver base. In addition, Uber removed the uncertainty and safety concerns. The app's GPS tracking meant drivers always knew their rider's location and destination, and cashless payments reduced robbery risks. A win for everyone. For Uber itself, the gig economy was a gift. Not only did it allow the company to scale using a vast pool of freelancers, but it also avoided the costs, such as holiday pay and pensions, associated with contracted employees. So the company grew. The riders were happy, the drivers were happy, and the only people who weren't happy were the cabbies, who started losing customers. And that was just one of the many challenges Uber faced. Uber's road to success had a few too many potholes. Everything the company is known for, working with independent contractors, dynamic pricing, rapid expansion, was the reason for complaints and fierce regulatory wars. Well, you just can't make everyone happy. Over the years, Uber's growth was continuously hindered because of battles against local governments and taxi unions. Thousands of taxi drivers in different locations were joining forces to sue Uber because of unfair competition. Cities around the world either tried to ban Uber outright or imposed heavy restrictions, arguing it was breaking the rules of the road, both literally and figuratively. Despite all of this, the company keeps fighting back and growing, one against many. On the other side, dynamic pricing has been a major gripe from riders. While Uber argues it's a smart way to match supply and demand, seeing those surge charges feels like hitting every red light on your way to an urgent appointment. Frustrating, annoying, and completely out of your control. And you have to get someplace. As most of us know, those prices hike when we need rides the most, during holidays, deluges, or snowstorms. But over 8 times the standard fare? Does that seem a bit over the top? So, after several especially egregious instances, Uber was forced to cap its prices during high-demand periods. There were also tech headaches, like the 2016 data breach that exposed sensitive info on 57 million users and drivers, which Uber kept quiet about for over a year. Uber paid the hackers $100,000 to delete the files and another $148 million in fines for concealing the breach. Ouch. And let's not forget the infamous 2017 meltdown. Workplace harassment allegations revealed a toxic bro culture under former CEO Travis Kalanick, resulting in lawsuits galore. This chaos led to leadership changes and some serious soul-searching within the company. Uber worked hard to fix its image and rebuild trust. First things first, it replaced the erring CEO with Dara Khosrowshahi, the former Expedia chief.
The culture went wrong, and the governance of the company went wrong, and the board went in a very bad direction. But if the product is good, then if you can bring in good leadership and you can ultimately bring it together, and I think we're on our way.
Dara was the perfect fit for Uber. He had already proven his ability to turn things around, transforming Expedia from a struggling company into a top player in the travel industry. How? Check out our Expedia story to know more. With Dara in the driver's seat, Uber started shifting gears. It introduced new safety features, updated driver policies, and launched campaigns that emphasized accountability and transparency. These efforts showed that Uber was learning from its mistakes and committed to positive change. The scandals gradually subsided, and the company's position stabilized. But it was still a startup, though a massive one. The time came to take the next step and go public. The hype was enormous. Everybody seemed to be looking forward to investing in a promising transportation giant. In May 2019, the anticipated IPO happened, and it indeed made history as the biggest first-day dollar loss in U.S. records. On its maiden trading day, Uber's shares closed down 7.6%, cratering the initial company valuation of $82 billion to less than $70 billion. The debut was beyond disappointing. Why did that happen? Well, investors were spooked by Uber's staggering losses, its unclear path to profitability, and never-ending regulatory scrutiny. The weak performance raised questions about whether the company's growth-first, profit-later strategy could ever deliver the returns investors hoped for. So, despite the hype, Uber's IPO became a cautionary tale of overvalued startups and market skepticism. To this day, Uber is surrounded by controversies. How should Uber be treating drivers? As independent contractors or employees? Should cities limit the number of drivers? Tax evasions? Discrimination scandals? Secretly lobbying governments? Uber has been through everything. But despite always being in the midst of chaos, often of their own making, they've continued to push forward. Uber not only managed to survive, but even thrived in the perfect storm. So how did they do it? Uber knew that to stay ahead, they had to think outside the car and innovate. And so it kept pushing boundaries. It rolled out new features, offered new services, explored untapped markets, and embraced tech innovations. Step by step, Uber developed from a ride-hailing app into a multi-product platform. What started as a way to get from point A to B is now a tool helping you go anywhere, get anything. And it's all part of their plan to become a super app, a one-stop shop for mobility and delivery. It actually started with Uber Eats in 2014. The company realized its network of drivers could do more than move people. They could deliver food too. Over time, it expanded to groceries and even convenience items. This part of the business turned out to be Uber's lifesaver during COVID. The ride segment, which accounted for 90% of Uber's business, dropped 85%. But then came the food delivery boom, when people preferred to order their meals in rather than going out to eat. And so, after the pandemic, Uber Eats accounted for half of the business. If that's not impressive enough, Uber even delivered Japanese cuisine to outer space. But back to business segments. In 2017, Uber went full throttle into logistics with Uber Freight. It launched a marketplace to connect truckers with companies needing goods moved. Now, it wasn't only about people and food deliveries. It was a bold step into the previously untapped B2B transportation services. Next, Uber hopped onto the micromobility trend with electric scooters and bikes. Through a partnership with Lime, it filled the gap for short, eco-friendly rides, making it easy to navigate busy streets. It's another way Uber keeps everything moving. And with each new service, it gets closer to becoming that super app, a single platform where you can book a ride, get dinner delivered, or move freight. This model, inspired by successful Asian apps like WeChat, is designed to keep customers coming back for everything they need.
Any place you want to go, anything you want to get, within the next hour, Uber is going to be there for you.
Well, creative ideas and ambitions are something Uber never lacked. You can tell that even by their flying taxi plans that should have been launched in 2023. Looks like this time the taxi will be late, like a few years late. Though some of Uber's ventures were either short-lived or never realized, others proved highly successful and remain key parts of its offerings. The company is well-positioned, and all of its KPIs like revenue across segments, users, bookings, and all that shows steady growth. But does it mean the future is nothing but bright for Uber? Lately, many see self-driving cars as one of the biggest threats to Uber's better tomorrow. Autonomous taxis have become mainstream in a number of cities, with Waymo alone booking over 175,000 paid rides weekly. Obviously, this new technology could shake things up for Uber because these cars don't need drivers, the heart of Uber's whole setup. Waymo and the like might just bypass Uber and give people cheaper rides themselves. So, what's Uber doing about it? Well, at some point, Uber entered the self-driving race and was one of the first to get autonomous vehicles on city streets. However, after a few years down the road, Uber sold this part of its business to Aurora, another autonomous vehicle startup. Does it mean that the company just ignores trends and disregards potential threats? Not really. Instead of engaging in rivalry, Uber chose to cooperate and join forces. It teamed up with the leading providers of self-driving tech to enhance its mobility and delivery businesses. For Uber, it's about survival and staying relevant. For Waymo and others, it's a fast track to scale. Though in its early days, this move could redefine the future of transportation. In fact, Dara Khosrowshahi expects robots to drive up to 20% of the time on the Uber platform, of course. It seemed that Uber had it all covered until December 2024. That's when Waymo stirred the pot again by announcing its expansion to Miami. This time, without teaming up with Uber, it signaled Waymo's ambition to capture a larger share of key urban markets. This news resurfaced concerns about the growing competition in the ride-hailing space. And of course, we can't forget about Tesla, Zoox, and other companies closely tailing the frontrunners. Will Uber be able to steer its way through this next hairpin turn? Or will robo-taxis kick it out of the race? Well, while this autonomous vehicle rush poses long-term challenges, Uber is far from being out of the game. The reality is that autonomous vehicles, though a looming risk factor, are still years away from achieving the scale and cost efficiency needed to disrupt the market directly. For now, they're likelier to be more of a sideshow and an option within the Uber app rather than a direct threat. Uber's probably still got plenty of road ahead. Unless it messes up for another reason. The thing is that the company came out on top by prioritizing user experience and convenience. Riders enjoyed affordable and transparent fares, frequent discounts, and hassle-free service. Drivers were incentivized with attractive sign-up bonuses, per-trip earnings boosts, and a sense of autonomy in their schedules. That's how Uber came to dominate the market, but its initial focus seems to be shifting. Riders often complain about higher fares, fewer promotions, and unpredictable surge pricing that makes trips less affordable. Meanwhile, drivers report shrinking payouts, more demanding schedules, and reduced incentives. This shift away from prioritizing user and driver satisfaction in favor of maximizing profits has left many questioning whether Uber can maintain its reputation as a customer-focused platform. Well, we can only guess. Tell us in the comments below about your thoughts on Uber, and stay tuned for more Altec Soft videos.